Vendon is a simulated operating system that is made in Visual Basic.net within Visual Studio. It was created in 2020 and still exists to this day. However, with its 5-year history comes some interesting things about Vendon that you may not know about, and that is what this video is here for. We will now take you through the detailed Vendon Iceberg. Vendon logo. The Vendon logo needs no introduction. It is probably one of the most recognizable parts of Vendon. Vendon 7, Post Reset. This is the most actively worked on version of Vendon currently. Development of Vendon fundamentals for legacy PCs. This was worked on back in 2024, but the development was very well known to a lot of people, and so that is why it is here. Vendon Server 2023. Vendon Server 2023 is one of the most well-known releases of Vendon. Released in September 2023, it still is the most recent server release of Vendon, but will soon be superseded by Vendon Home Server. Vendon 6. Vendon 6 released on July 24, 2023, and is still the most recent consumer release after almost 2 years. Vendon Rift. Vendon Rift was the first attempt of creating a real operating system for Vendon, which was based on Linux. Vendon 5.0. Vendon 5.0 released on July 2nd, 2022, and is believed to be one of the worst releases of all time. Vendon 4.0. Vendon 4.0 released in 2021, on a date that has actually been debated for a while. It was only proven a few months ago that it was released on October 5th, 2021. Vendon 4.0 is the worst version of all time. ISA Corp. ISA Corporation, or ISA Corp for short, is a fake company that develops Vendon. The name was first known to be used in 2019 when I kept using the name ISA in a book of mine as I was drawing fake operating systems, and ISA was the company that developed them. Vendon 3.1. Vendon 3.1 released on August 15th, 2021. It was a fairly successful release. The only unsuccessful thing about Vendon 3.1 was the launch event, which did not go to plan. Vendon 3.0. Vendon 3.0 released on July 31st, 2021, and was a major release, primarily due to the taskbar being added, which stayed all the way up to the development reset in 2025. Vendon 3.0 is also the only version to get a service pack, which came out on August 2nd, 2021. Vendon Server July 2021. Vendon Server July 2021 was the first server release of Vendon, released on July 28, 2021. This version has a lost build, known as Build 1051, that recently was confirmed to exist but has not been found. Even though this is a well-known version of Vendon, it is very low because of the lost build. Vendon 2.0. Vendon 2.0 released on June 6, 2021. There's nothing really special to say about it, honestly. Vendon Home Server. Vendon Home Server is being worked on currently, along with Vendon 7, however is a lot less known. Vendon Fundamentals for Legacy PCs launch. The launch of Vendon Fundamentals for Legacy PCs went horribly. On March 29, 2025, it was released. However, after being out for 30 minutes, it had to quickly be pulled back and recompiled due to several bugs in the final version. The fixed version was released a few minutes after the original version was taken offline. Vendon CodeOS Edition. Vendon CodeOS Edition was released on April 6, 2021, and is the second ever version of Vendon. It launched 1 year after CodeOS, another simulated operating system of mine, was released. Vendon Centurion Boot Screen. This is the first creepy one on the list. For some reason, this boot screen just puts me on edge. I don't know why. Especially if you're doing this at night in a dark room. Ugh. This boot screen is really creepy for some reason. I think it's just because of all the colors being really dark, and the only thing light in this is the logo is really creepy to me. I don't know. Vendon End of Life Message. A message will appear on some versions of Vendon if you are using them past the end of support date, telling you that you can no longer use the version and that you should update. Sometimes if you hit the OK button on the window, it can actually close Vendon. This also has a creepy factor, as earlier versions of this message would warn you not to launch Vendon again, quote, or else, end quote. ShiftOS. ShiftOS is another simulated operating system that Vendon got its origins from, as well as CodeOS. ShiftOS was developed in 2013 and 2014 by Philip Adams, who also owns OS First Timer. Sadly, ShiftOS was eventually discontinued, however, videos are still up on the YouTube channel for it. In 2020, I was watching these videos a lot, which gave me motivation to create CodeOS and eventually Vendon. So, Philip, if you see this, thank you. You literally made CodeOS and Vendon happen. I can't thank you enough for it. Vendon Concept. Vendon Concept was a lightweight program that was a test for changing the background color in a window form. This was the early stage of Vendon CodeOS Edition and is now known as Vendon Concept. Vendon 1.0. Vendon 1.0 was the very first version of Vendon to be created, however, it was not finished. It went under development from July 11th to the 14th, 2020. After that, the computer it was on was reset, and it will never be seen again. Vendon 69420. Vendon 69420 was an April Fool's build released on April 1st, 2025. It was based off of Vendon 7 build. ShiftOS Remade. ShiftOS Remade was a recreation of ShiftOS I made in 2022. It only lasted for just over a month before being cancelled. Project Echo. Project Echo is a future project of Vendon that will come after Vendon 7 is released. Vendon Game Edition, 2021 version. That is supposed to say 2021, but whatever. Vendon Game Edition back in 2021 was a similar idea to ShiftOS Remade, but done worse. It was eventually cancelled after a month or so of development. Unofficial code names. Some versions of Vendon have unofficial code names attached to them. It is currently unknown why. Vendon 7 Pre-Reset. The pre-reset Vendon 7 builds are very interesting as they have features or things in them that were not carried over after the reset, such as a sidebar. ShiftOS and Vendon Game Edition. Many of the resources in ShiftOS were directly copied over into Vendon Game Edition. Vendon Game Edition backgrounds. Some of these backgrounds just feel off or were designed in a really weird way. I don't know if it's just me, but this one especially is just strange. Vendon Definite. Vendon Definite was a canceled new version of Vendon that would simulate a phone operating system. Only one build was ever compiled. Vendon Small Business Server 2024. Vendon Small Business Server 2024 was a canceled version of Vendon. It is one of the only canceled releases to actually have gone into development before being canceled. It was based on Vendon fundamentals for legacy PCs. Vendon Hybrid. Hybrid was one of the code names for Vendon 4.0, and one of the builds of Vendon 4.0 was completely identified as Hybrid and Omega, and not 4.0. The reason this is on here is this was going to be a completely different project split from 4.0, however the split did not take effect, so this may have been the only build of a potential other version of Vendon. Has.gda.png. Has.gda.png is a file within the Vendon code. All it is a track of a storm in Terralakla, which is a fictional world of mine. Vendon Server 2022. Vendon Server 2022 is a cancelled version of Vendon that was supposed to release alongside Vendon 5.0. Vendon Caledonia. Vendon Caledonia is a cancelled version of Vendon that was supposed to release in June 2023. Other Vendon Linux releases. Other versions of Vendon based on Linux were released, such as Buffalo and codename Wutem. None of them were successful, however. Untitled.png. This is a file found deep in the resources of Vendon. It is simply the letter M with lines around it. It is unknown why this image exists. Vendon Detroit kill screen. This is a video I made back in 2021. I'm going to now show you what this video actually was. Vendon Game Edition 2025. The 2025 version of Vendon Game Edition was developed at one point a few months ago, but has barely been touched. It functions almost identically to ShiftOS Remake 0.0.3. Vendon Anti-Piracy Checker. In some versions of Vendon, such as Vendon 5.0, an anti-piracy checker will pop up on the screen. If you type in the right code, it will disappear. However, if you type in the wrong code, a new window will open in a devilish red and black color, and it threatens you to not reopen the application, with the error code 66613. After 10 seconds, the application closes. First Vendon anti-piracy screen. This screen does not appear at all in Vendon and is only found in the resources in the code. It mentions that if the program was not bought from anywhere besides itch.io, then it is likely a virus or was pirated, and a second anti-piracy screen is likely to appear. Forbidden version. This is a version that is unconfirmed to exist, but people have said a strange build compiled in 2021 or 2022 exists that acts unlike any other version of Vendon, behaving wrong or just being overall creepy. But I can't confirm this actually exists or is true in any way. These are probably just rumors. Second Vendon anti-piracy screen. This screen is a lot creepier than the first one, being in all caps and in deep red. It says that the version was pirated and that it needs to be reported immediately. The user is threatened that if you do not exit in 30 seconds, quote, you will face consequences, end quote. Thankfully, this screen only exists in the resources and was not actually added into Vendon. Vendon Game Edition Red Screen of Death. A red screen of death is present in the resources of Vendon Game Edition. It is unknown if the screen can actually be triggered, but it is creepy. Vendon 5.0 Kill Screen. A built-in kill screen was added into Vendon 5.0, however it cannot be triggered. I will put this into a video format and show you how it actually looks.